So that brings the concern full circle. The big concern. Is Star Wars: The Old Republic going into maintenance mode? What do these three games have in common? Well, they're now all being developed by the same team, believe it or not. Broadsword Games. EA shocked fans of the MMO this week by announcing that development of the story-focused MMO would be leaving BioWare and moving over to Broadsword. As reported by IGN, EA and Broadsword have signed a letter of intent to move development of Star Wars: The Old Republic over to Broadsword. Since IGN's publication of the story, EA confirmed the news with a statement that sounds, well, pretty much very bland and uninspiring, with generic wording about how great the Old Republic is. This may have many Old Republic players wondering, who the f is Broadsword besides one of these things? And what does this mean for Star Wars: The Old Republic? Well, Broadsword has actually been around for quite some time. It is a team that lists just over 20 members on its website, including former Mythic Entertainment co-founder and former BioWare VP, Rob Denton. EA referred to Broadsword as a boutique studio that specializes in delivering online community-driven experiences in their announcement. If Mythic Entertainment sounds familiar, it's because they were the company who created games like Dark Age of Camelot and Warhammer Online. When Mythic was closed by EA in 2014, Broadsword was created with ex-Mythic staff to continue to support Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot. Broadsword is a company that has chugged along for nearly the last decade with its two aging MMOs, but it's been slow to make anything new for either, which makes sense. It's a small company, or as EA said, a boutique company. For example, Ultima Online's New Dawn server was announced in 2020 to somewhat muted fanfare, but still some interest. I was interested in it, for example. And yet in 2023, we still have really nothing to show for that server, except some commentary that it's changed direction a little bit. I am less clued into DAOC, so if there's something big that I have missed, please let me know down in the comment section below. But I didn't see anything major over the last couple of years. So really, it kind of seems like with Broadsword, it is a company that is good at maintaining the games, keeping the servers up, patching when necessary, and just kind of trying to keep it going. I believe they've also run a couple different events, like on Ultima Online and things like that, just to kind of keep in community engagement. But really, they are, for the most part, seemingly a maintenance company. So that brings the concern full circle, the big concern. Is Star Wars: The Old Republic going into maintenance mode? Only time will tell, but there's some bad things that have been happening to the Old Republic for a little while now. This all follows the departure of creative director Chris Boyd last year, who had been with Star Wars: The Old Republic for 10 years. For those who don't remember Chris Boyd, he had been an integral part of the game, going back to being part of a team of writers under Daniel Erickson, becoming lead writer in 2012, and then finally taking over as creative director in 2016. That in itself was a pretty big hit to the Old Republic, and this move feels much the same. It's hard to look at this as a positive move, given the lack of, well, anything. IGN noted that of the 70 to 80 people who are currently part of the Old Republic's development team, only about half of them are expected to move over to Broadsword, meaning the rest are going to need to find different roles within the company or face being laid off. They are not going to be able to go and work on the Old Republic anymore. Essentially, the team is being cut in half, and that's not a good thing. And I really want to point out here, like, I really hope that those developers that are working on the Old Republic right now, I hope that they can find other jobs working on other games within EA or BioWare, and they don't have to get laid off, because that did sound like there was going to potentially be a human cost here where you were going to lose half of the team that has been working to bring the Old Republic to life. And that really sucks. Like there's not really anything else I can put there. It sucks when you see these layoffs in the gaming industry, and they've been kind of frequent lately. So there's not a lot of positive here, not the human cost that may be coming from this downsizing, nor the potential trajectory of the Old Republic. The downsizing is perhaps the most concerning part of this to me. And this downsizing is even further concerning because Star Wars: The Old Republic has been struggling for a little while now to create compelling expansions. It has felt a lot like a lot of the expansions that have released have been met with a big meh. You know, like not really like, oh, it's terrible, as much as there's just not a lot there, not a lot of content, not a lot of expansion. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's also tied to how the game works, with it being so story focused. Those that have remembered the game and played it, you'll remember when they kind of made the shift away from the personal class story to a personal story. And that makes sense. Making personal class stories for every single class in every new expansion would be a lot of work. But they kind of lost that really key thing, at least in my opinion, when they shifted away from that. It sounds like this is kind of just like a long time coming thing where the content has been drying up a little bit for the Old Republic. And while we're on the subject of Star Wars: The Old Republic and some of the issues it could potentially be facing, there's an issue that I've been noticing a lot with the game when I just log in now. You know, there's every time I've gone into PvP, especially like in the larger battlegrounds, there's been a lot of like rubber banding and weird lag-like issues that are happening, which I don't remember seeing before. I don't remember having this issue the way that it's appearing almost all the time now for me. And I can't say if this is something just limited to me, but it's been happening multiple times to me, where it's specifically in PvP, this you know, the group focused issues, which is kind of funny because when I really enjoyed Star Wars: The Old Republic, the battlegrounds, like they were kind of one of my favorite parts of it. They had some interesting takes on at PvP battlegrounds that other games weren't doing yet. And yet now it seems to be one of the weaker parts of it, which is a really sad state of the game, and makes me wonder just how much longer does this game have left? And can this move to Broadsword just be another nail in the coffin of a game that's already kind of struggling? It seemed to me like the Old Republic needed more resources, not less, but that's not really in the cards. At least it doesn't seem that way. But let's try and spin a positive out of this news. And no, sorry, it's probably not going to be for the Old Republic. There is one positive, and that's that this could be a win for Broadsword. Broadsword will be inheriting a game that is the youngest in its catalog by far. With Ultima Online having launched in 1997 and Dark Age of Camelot in 2001, the Old Republic is 10 years younger, having launched in 2011. It will also be the game with the largest IP and the largest peak player base, one that by 2019 had made EA about $1 billion in revenue, a game that EA will continue to produce. Now, Broadsword will get to try its hand at the game, and will be doing so with some of the team who had already been working on the game. Perhaps this could be a similar success story when we saw what happened with the creation of Standing Stone Games from Turbine for Lord of the Rings Online. This is an expansion of the relationship between EA and Broadsword, and an elevation of Broadsword's name. After all, how many of you had heard of Broadsword before this announcement? The only reason why I had heard of Broadsword was because I was curious who was still making Ultima Online after all these years. But it's also good news for fans of old BioWare games, not because BioWare is suddenly going to miraculously return to what it was. We'll have to wait for the Dragon Age 4 release to see if there is anything going on there. But one of the things here in this focus is a shift for BioWare away from the MMO, back over to single player games. which makes a lot of sense when you think that they have 2 flagship titles that have been announced that they're working on. First, of course, Dragon Age 4, which could release this year, next year, or sometime soon, hopefully, which we'll maybe get some news on that in the coming week with a couple of like the Summer Game Fest and things like that. And then also, of course, Mass Effect, another Mass Effect being announced. So they're 2 big flagship games, single player games. They're going to be redefining their focus on those, which I hope will be better for gamers overall and allow BioWare to return to what they became known for, creating well-made, story-driven with consequence single-player RPGs. And let's hope that they don't try and turn them all into live service games like Anthem. But what do you think? If you are an Old Republic player, are you concerned? If you're a fan of like the Dragon Age series and Mass Effect, are you excited to see that BioWare is going to be going back to really just focusing on single player games? I'll look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments down below. My name is Redbird Flynn. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.